Welcome, everybody, to episode number 15 of the Merc at Work podcast. Today, we bring back one of the OGs from the podcast,
Right?
Joe Leavell. What we wanted to do was do a little bit of a series, as Joe's been mentoring and being an advisor to Merc. Wanted to kind of start a monthly series on business tactics and ideas. So welcome, Joe, again.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it. It's been a watching you guys grow from, what has happened, episode 3 or 4 to episode 15, just in that little bit of time is it's actually been pretty crazy how much you guys have, you know, I won't say changed, but morphed. You've morphed into
Yeah,
something else. So it's been a real pleasure for sure.
yeah, no, for sure. And we appreciate all that you've poured into us to help us get there. And Joe's been a good advisor to us, and he's like our energizer. When you need a little charge up, he gives you the battery. So,
It's funny.
yeah. Well, today I wanted to talk a little bit about customer service and relationships. I know that's something that's a passion for you, and we talked a little bit about that on the uh, the first podcast. And so, just to kick it off, what does that mean to you, and how have you implemented relationship building in your businesses?
Uh, not to sound super cliche, but I kind of feel like that's the most important thing that you can do, because the difference between good companies and great companies is how they take care of one, their internal customer, which is what we talked about last time, um, which is you take care of them, then they take care of your customers or clients, and that makes just such a difference between good companies and great companies, because a lot of good companies make money and have good profit margins, and they're okay places to work. I mean, we can give dozens and dozens of examples in every industry, but then the really great companies do customer service on such a different level. And it goes back to what me and you talk about all the time about sitting across the table from someone and genuinely wanting to do right by them. And when you do that, in turn, that they reciprocate that by being loyal to your brand, to your product, to your organization. And it doesn't matter what you do. If you're selling packaging, or you're doing medical consulting, or you're doing artificial grass, or you're making sandwiches, it's all the same. It's the same process. That's just the product or the service is just the median that we're using to get where we need to get with the customer.
Yeah. Along with that, a lot of people would say it's obvious that, business is built on relationships and it's relationship driven, you know, trust and confidence in you delivering those products and services. How would you describe building that kind of trust and building those relationships?
I I wish there was a magic bullet. Like we talk about this all the time. Like if there's a purple unicorn out there that bleeds rainbow blood, and I could tell everybody what that is, I would do it. The only
Yeah.
thing I can really say is you just have to be extremely consistent,
Hmm.
and you have to be that every day with everyone.
Yeah.
And that's really the challenge, because it's easy for ownership or leadership or the executive team regardless to care and to pour themselves into what they do and to believe in it and then try to put the customer first, especially if you're an organization that is driven by customer service. If you're driven by profit margin, you're taking your chance. You may or may not have that type of culture that cares about customer service, but consistency is, I can say, is by far the single-handedly most important thing that you can do, really, in anything: sales, marketing,
Yeah.
customer service, HR. Payroll. you got to be you got to be consistent.
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing that we, and it goes back to what we talked about on the last time I was on the show, um, having grit. you know, the grit to do the same things repetitively over and over and over and over again that are the right things. If they're the
Hmm.
wrong things, then that's just the definition of insanity. But
Right.
if they're the right things, then you know you're absolutely on the right track for sure.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed, and I've, many people have even told me these things, is you don't always get results from the consistency, but there is recognition in it. And I think long term there are results. It's like the immediate results aren't always there, but consistency does breed long term results.
Absolutely. Anybody can do anything for 10 minutes, but if you can consistently do it for 10 years, that's the difference between motivation and discipline. So
Yeah.
I can be motivated to come to work every day. I can motivate my people to come to work every day by paying them well, letting them, buying them lunch every day or having, a game room. That's a little motivating, but after a while, if there's no discipline to get up and do that because you believe in the outcomes of it or what it's going to produce, it doesn't work. It doesn't last, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. So, can you give me some stories or examples of how you've built some relationships? I know you've got some good, sales stories from the past, but anything you can share that's uh, be a good way that you built a long-term relationship.
Absolutely. The ones that come to mind are the greatest stories because they're almost unbelievable. So I mean, seriously, you might not. I don't even know if I've ever told you this story, but one time I was on a plane from I was going to Boston for a job interview. I don't know. This was probably 17, 18 years ago. And I sat next to a guy. I flew into Philly and then flew to Boston, no direct flight out of Louisville. And I sat next to this guy and we got to talking. And he did some kind of energy consulting. Like, I know nothing, which I know nothing about energy and, it's not my field.
Hmm.
And we shared contacts like most people do. Oh, you sit next to somebody on a plane, spark up conversation. You're like, hey, the difference between me and most people is that if you give me your contact information, there is a good chance I'm going to reach out to you because that's distance and it's me reaching out to try to help this person. So I
Yeah.
instantly went through my metaphorical Rolodex of people that I know that have something to do with energy. Because again, I really like this guy. He's a young guy, he's just hustling, and I was
Hmm.
just trying to help him. So I probably a week went by and I called him and I said, hey man, remember me? And he was like, oh, it's a classic. He's like, oh yeah, I think I remember you. I'm like, I'm 6'4" and like, loud. And it's hard to forget me, So he remembered. And anyway, I introduced him to a couple people and I stayed in touch with him consistently. Again, here's that word,
Yeah.
consistency, for the next month or so. Even when I reached out to him, he might not respond, but I know he read it. People will read your text messages. They will typically read at least the subject line of your email or your LinkedIn message. They
Hmm.
choose not to respond. It's not just that sometimes they just don't look at it, but most of the time they do. So uh, eventually, another month or so went by, and we had a phone call. And he said, "Hey, man," he said, "I got this opportunity, and I was wondering maybe if you could, come and help me." And I was like, "Sure." And I said, "I'm supposed to go on vacation with my family. What if I just went to Philadelphia?" So I literally took my wife and my three children to Philly and stayed with this man and his wife for 6 days in Philly. And then we had met one time on a plane from Philadelphia to Boston, which is a 40-minute flight and
Yeah.
struggle with conversation. And I'm still friends with him to this day, 18 years later. And
Wow.
I helped him get opportunity in energy and actually created opportunity for myself that I never thought that I would do. I ended up going to flying to New Jersey one time with him to help him sit in on a meeting just because he's like, hey, you're really good at some of the things that I've kind of helped you guys with
Yeah.
for the past, same thing. And it didn't necessarily equate to a financial success for me in the sense of like I made a bunch of money, but I created an experience. And then that kind of molds me in seeing that I can do that something as random as meeting somebody on a plane, that now I can pass that same kind of consistency lessons on to other people and it doesn't matter what it is. And I've always said I wanted to write a book based on stories on planes, and that's a great story. Like that really is. I mean, I vacationed with this man and his family at his home off a 40-minute plane ride, and most people just walk away and go like, "Oh yeah, that guy was cool," and then they never forget. They never remember you,
Yeah.
and that was a great example of that for sure.
I think you got to tell the clown story.
Uh, oh, okay. Well, that's a totally different angle, but
Yeah.
when I was in packaging, or not packaging, but commercial printing, my job, I was a VP of business development, and my job was to get swings at the plate, just to introduce our company, create awesome experiences. I actually have three quick stories for this one. One Kyle is talking about is the clown story. So Feld Entertainment, which owns Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, Disney on Ice, Marvel on Ice, Monster Jam, like the monster trucks, Super Motocross, all their family traveling entertainment company. And I wanted to do business with them because they did a lot of printing and commercial, stuff like that. So the only thing I could do to separate myself was I sent him an invitation to dinner, and we did it out of plexiglass, and it was the mirror from Beauty and the Beast. So we
Oh,
had it cut out in the shape of Beauty and the Beast. We sent it to him, and it said, "Won't you be our guest for dinner?" And they had never seen anything like it, so obviously they responded. And I got a meeting, and the first meeting I showed up dressed as a clown. And maybe in post production, before you post this, I'll send you that picture, and you can, put it up, and it'll show like I literally am dressed as a clown. Well, then the second meeting, I had to go to Jessup, Maryland, because their home office was in Bradenton, Florida, and then
okay.
their production facility and like their distribution warehouse was in Jessup, Maryland, outside DC. And I did a wall cling, 6 foot wall cling as Zeus the Lion and the ringmaster, and I put my face on it. It's been 15 years, and that cling is still in their office, like in the conference room where people show up, and I still have a conversation with their main guy. His name is Todd, and if I go to DC, I have dinner with him. I haven't sold to Feld Entertainment in years. They're not a customer of mine anymore, and I still have contact with him, and it was just that experience of giving them something they had never seen. We also had the similar situation with David's Bridal. We wanted to do business with them, so I took my art director. She dressed in a wedding dress. I dressed in a tuxedo, and we flew to David's Bridal for our first meeting dressed that way. And it was funny because when we left the meeting, people were like, I was like, "Have you guys ever seen anything like this?" They were like, "Joe, we've never even heard of anything like this. Like this is unbelievable. Of course we want to do business with you." And when we left, we flew out of David's Bridal's actually in Conshohocken,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Said that right.
Yeah.
And just outside Philly, again, another Philly story. And we flew out of Philly back to Louisville, and we're in a wedding dress and a tuxedo, and we're walking through the airport, and people are clapping. They're just like, "Whoa, great job!" And we'd have people come up to us. They're like, "Hey, congratulations on your wedding, but why are you going to Louisville on your honeymoon?" So then we'd have, and it was just it was for work or whatever. It was quite an experience for that one time. Um, I wanted to do business with this guy, and I found out that he got an album, he got a record deal in the 80s. He was in a heavy metal band in the 80s. So I bought the CD and I sent it to him, and I asked him for his autograph. And he called me the next day and he was like, "Joe, I don't even know how you found that out." But he's like, "I am just so blown away that you have gone to this great lengths." And so he invited me down for a meeting, and and we had the meeting, and I said, "Okay, well, I need what I came here for." And he's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "I need your autograph on this album cover." I had the actual album, and he was like, "You're kidding me." I was like, "No, I'm not kidding you." So I gave him a marker. I had one with him, and he signed it, and I still have it. And it's like, that's the service mentality, that if they'll go to those great lengths just to create an experience for me, what are they going to do when when I'm actually one of their customers? And
Yeah.
that's the kind of things that you have to really try to do. And it's hard because you have to be consistent. Those are three quick stories that I gave you. It don't happen like that every time. Like I've done
Yeah.
some crazy things that didn't work. So you just can't. It doesn't matter. You just have to be consistent and go forward that way.
Yeah. Yeah. We had an opportunity early on in our business, we had a customer reach out and say, basically, it was like, if you can be in Montana, we were in Texas at the time, if you can be in Montana in a day, you've got the job. And, we haven't found other folks that do this, or the ones that haven't been consistent. There we go. Back to that word again.
Yeah.
And I said, you can get this job and it might lead to more. So hopped on a plane a day later, Montana, and I think we had a great relationship with them for 4 or 5 years, doing a lot
Yeah.
of their physician acquisition valuations. So it was just being willing to jump in there, do it, and then again provide that consistent deliverable, and just always being available and doing what you can do to earn their business.
It sounds so atypical to just be like, oh, be consistent, but it's really be consistently flexible. So to do and to deliver what they're needing you to deliver, regardless of what it is. That's you're consistent, but you're consistently flexible to do whatever the customer needs. And it doesn't take long for a client, especially a high profile client, to understand why there's value in that. Because someone could come in right behind you and be like, oh, we can appraise this medical equipment for 6% less or 8% less. So what? Who cares? Everything is sold on price, and then quality is assumed, and then service is usually last. But as soon as you can create a consistent, flexible experience that will do whatever is needed for them, then price goes out the window. And that margin is always made. And I mean, that's just the way that it is. And if people aren't doing it that way, then we have a real problem. I'll just take, my corporate job, which is really my main thing. And I work for a packaging company and we supply L boards. And we've talked about this before, but for these really large customers, we have a meeting with these large customers every week for the simple fact of being proactively consistent and flexible for them.
Yeah,
So if they say, Joe, or they're talking to somebody at the plant, they're like, look, we know we ordered this and we needed it by then, but we need it now. Okay, no problem. We will turn everything upside down just to make them happy because they're that important to us. And
yeah,
that's the kind of the difference in how we can separate ourselves from everybody else, because you've already said it. A lot of times you'll get calls and they'll be like, well, our current partner or vendor is not being consistent,
yeah,
meaning they're trying to dictate what we can do. And that's not how it works. That's just that's not what you're looking for. And customers aren't looking for that either.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've had those similar type of things where they'll say, "Hey, we're sorry it's a fire drill, and we're sorry we're putting you through so many fire drills."
Oh, well,
Well,
I'll wear a fire
that's
hat.
what we're here for. Yeah, that's what we've said. But I think we even replied back to them. We're like, "Well, we're your firefighters." So,
Yeah, yeah. I'll show up in a firefighter costume just to make them laugh. And then
yeah,
they'll never forget it. So
yeah,
that sometimes that's what's needed.
yeah. But as that relationship builds, then they understand kind of what you need to be successful. You understand what they need to be successful, and you create that relationship again to where it doesn't always have to be fire drills. And then they know, hey, if I can tell them 2 weeks in advance, this is what I need, and I've got that information, I don't have to do that to them, and that's plenty of time. So it again, it goes back to just being flexible and consistent, like you said. I like those two themes that have popped out of this conversation.
Yeah, and what's crazy, I don't know, all of you who are listening on LinkedIn or wherever this is being published, we didn't we didn't plan that. Like, this is
Yeah,
just as absolutely organic as it can get, in the sense of what does this look like, and that just kind of feels like the leading of what it is. Like, there
yeah,
is no magic bullet. Just be consistent, be have the ability to be flexible, and do what's right by them. Period. Amen. End of story. Everything else works itself out,
yeah,
and find creative ways of doing it. That's just for yourself. It's like,
yeah. You talked a little bit again about the internal customer. That's always been a theme. How do you build that internal customer experience to both to then be external? What's kind
oh,
of what do you do some of your companies and things like that to build that internal experience so then it presents itself externally.
It's exactly the same thing that I just described to you,
Yeah,
except now we're not doing it for Feld Entertainment or David's Bridal or some other company. You're doing it for your customer, meaning your employee. You're doing
yeah,
it for your team. You're doing it for the people that work with you. That's how they, I mean, let's face it, everybody comes to work to get paid. We all have to make a
hmm,
living. That's it. That's why they're there. If you can do anything else above that and make them love it even more and make them be excited and have motivation and where you walk away and you feel like, man, this is what I want to do and I want to keep doing it, then you have to do those things.
yeah,
That's just the simple fact. We had a couple in the Jersey Mikes. We had a couple young ladies that had some housing issues. They just graduated from college or from high school. That moved out. They had some, I don't know what happened to their parents. Like some of these things you just don't know, and
yeah,
it's like I well, we as a leadership team were like, hey, we want to help them and we want to create them to know that they have such a cool experience that they have a job, even though it's sandwiches and they make $12 an hour or whatever it is, that we one care about them, that
yeah,
two can be consistent in our
hmm,
messaging and saying that we care about them, and
yeah,
then we're going to prove it. And so we help them find housing. We help them, and it's not I don't even say that. We didn't publish it. It's
yeah,
not a thing. It's like genuinely trying to put them first. And now they bleed the juice. You know what I'm saying? Because they're
yeah,
like, people really care about me and I love this brand and I love what we're doing. And it's like people have to realize that business development is extremely expensive. But if you look at it internally, like what we're talking about, employee development is extremely expensive. So if you go through all
hmm,
this time to train somebody and to work on them and to help them and to like get them to see what you're trying to see so that your company can grow, and then you don't do right by them or you don't give them the things that they really need to move forward, that experience, then you've just lost out and you're just spinning your wheels and you're just losing money hand over fist. And that is the best way that I can describe how we go about doing that for our external clients. We do that internally. It's the exact same thing. It does not matter.
yeah, yeah. I heard somebody say one time that to be really good at sales, you have to love people, like genuinely love them, because you want them to experience something, the benefits of whatever you're selling them, whether it's a car or whatever
All
it
right.
might be. And I think, again, it goes back to if you genuinely love the people that work for you, then you do everything you can to create that kind of experience for them. Like you treat them like their family, you treat them like you care about them, not just saying, hey, we care about our employees, but
Here's a
again,
party.
you
Yeah,
do it, you do it.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, it seems like the simplest form of success and the easiest thing that we talk about. There's really only a couple things that we personally as individuals can control: our effort and our attitude.
yeah,
What we're talking about here in customer service and sales is consistency and like the ability to be flexible for your clients and then just caring about the simplest things of my employee needs to not only get paid well, they need to be treated well and they need to be
yeah,
lifted up and they need to be and sales is no different than that. And unfortunately, you have to love people, but I know a lot of people that love people and aren't good salespeople because of
hmm,
several things. There's only three things that you can actually be called to do on this earth. This is my personal opinion. I might get totally roasted for this, but you're either called to be a preacher, a teacher, or a salesperson. You cannot fake any of those. You can't fake being a preacher, you cannot fake being a teacher, and you cannot fake being a salesperson because people will look right through you. They just
yeah,
know you have to have something inside of you that draws people to what you're trying to tell them. And, we've talked about this before, but great salespeople or great teachers or great preachers sell what? They sell emotion. Emotional
hmm,
selling is what the key is. Like, I can sell you benefits and features. Again, I don't know who's listening to this, but maybe this is a quick ministry here, but it's like, oh, the benefits of becoming a Christian are you go to heaven and you do this and that. Okay, that's sales and benefit, or that's features and benefits.
yeah,
Okay, people try to sell that way. Oh, buy this tire because it drains and sheds this much water and blah blah blah.
yeah,
Okay. And then you have somebody that will sell a different way or whatever, and I could go all the way down through it. But then you start selling an emotion,
Hmm.
and now it's a totally different thing. So I just feel like that if people would just go back to the whole premise of I'm going to do right by this person, and I'm going to not expect anything in return, and then I'm going to do that same thing out externally, and I'm going to do it internally, dude, it's easy. Like anybody can do this. I'm not real smart at all. This is just true. I mean, but I don't think it takes a whole lot to figure this kind of stuff out. And I think you can follow so many people on Instagram and Facebook, and you got all these business coaches and consultants, and they're making all this money. They're saying the exact same stuff. Like they have to be, because I know people. I'll say something, people are like, "Oh, I just heard that somewhere," and I'm like, "Well, I guarantee you did. If they're being successful, that's what they're doing."
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is true because you hear a lot of the same messaging over and over again, just packaged a little different.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just not, like I said, I'm just not smart enough to monetize that. It's like, if somebody wants to give me money, okay. But,
Yeah. No, it's great. Well, that I think this is first one of several we're going to try and do of these.
sure.
Um, and one of the things that anybody listening, if you'd like us to discuss any other sort of, whether it's a sales tactic or, some sort of relationship building or something inside of business, we'd be happy to bring that up. So definitely leave a comment or whatever. But
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
enjoy these kind of discussions and wanted it to be something that was kind of a quick hit, punch straight to the point. I think we got there. Consistency and flexibility. Boom.
Yep. Uh,
Yeah, mic drop. So, but we appreciate everyone listening. And Joe, again, appreciate you joining. And we'll look forward to the next one.
yep. You just let me know time and place. I'll be there.
Sounds good. Thanks again for your time. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother.
Thanks.